Happy Monday, everyone, from a frigidly cold Washington, D.C. I'm Eric Ham, and this is Firstpost America. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the U.S. and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest global headlines. U.S. officials say the person detained over the shooting at Brown University that killed 2 students will be released soon, noting that there's no basis to consider him as a person of interest anymore. A Hong Kong court convicts pro-democracy media tycoon Jimmy Lai on 3 national security charges, a decision that rights groups denounce as a death knell for press freedom in the Chinese financial hub. Thailand's military says it has stopped fuel shipments at the border checkpoint with Laos over fears that they're diverting to Cambodia as the country's fierce border conflict enters its 2nd week. The Los Angeles police suspect a double homicide as they launch an investigation into the deaths of Hollywood star Rob Reiner and his wife. Condolences have been pouring in for the award-winning actor and director. And Louvre staff vote to continue to strike, with about 400 employees unanimously backing protests over worsening working conditions 2 months after a robbery at the world's most visited museum. Today we begin in Australia, where one man's split-second decision in the middle of terror at Bondi Beach likely saved lives. Ahmed Al-Ahmed, a 43-year-old fruit shop owner and father of 2 from Sydney's Sutherland Shire, was among the crowd when gunfire erupted during a Hanukkah celebration at the iconic beach on Sunday evening. As panic spread and people ran for cover, Ahmed hid briefly behind parked cars. Then, seeing one of the attackers firing near a pedestrian bridge, he ran straight towards the danger. Video footage shows that he tackled the gunman from behind, wresting the weapon from his hands and forcing him to retreat. After pushing the attacker to the ground, Ahmed briefly pointed the gun at him, lowering it and raising one hand, appearing to signal to police that he was not one of the shooters. Moments later, the same attacker was seen picking up another weapon and firing again from the bridge, while a second gunman also continued shooting. Ahmed was shot twice during the confrontation, once in the arm and another in the hand. He was rushed to the hospital where he underwent surgery, and his cousin told the media that he was in stable condition and recovering.
The doctor, he's very okay, and next 2 hours they let us to go in and see Ahmed, because he's still inside and he do the operation. But we hope he will be fine. He's a hero, 100%. He's a hero, because what we see on the social media, he's 100% hero.
Now the attack unfolded yesterday as more than 1,000 people had gathered at Bondi Beach to mark the start of Hanukkah. What should have been a festive evening quickly turned into chaos as bullets were fired into the crowd. At least 16 people were killed, including a child, and dozens more were injured. Australian police later confirmed that the shooting was a terrorist incident that deliberately targeted the Jewish community.
We know that there were many people there to celebrate a happy occasion, the celebration of Hanukkah, and there was well over 1,000 people there when this took place. As a result of the circumstances of the incident tonight, at 9:36 p.m. this evening, I declared this to be a terrorist incident.
Authorities added that the attackers were a father and his 24-year-old son. The father was shot dead by police at the scene, while the son was arrested and remains in the hospital in critical condition. Hours after the shooting, police also found a homemade explosive device in a nearby parked car, which they believe was linked to the attackers.
The offenders are a 50-year-old and 24-year-old male who are father and son. The 50-year-old is deceased. The 24-year-old is currently in hospital at the moment. We are satisfied that we have 6 firearms. Ballistics and forensic investigation will determine this morning that those 6 firearms are the 6 that were licensed to that man, but also that they were used in the offence yesterday at Bondi.
As the violence unfolded, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Monday that his centre-left government would consider tougher gun laws after the mass shooting. Calling it a dark day in the history of Australia, Albanese added that the tougher laws would include limits on the number of guns used or licensed by individuals and a periodical review of gun licenses.
What we saw yesterday was an act of pure evil, an act of terror, an act of anti-Semitism, an attack on the first day of Hanukkah targeted at the Jewish community. A dark day in Australia's history on what should have been a day of light. And I want to conclude finally by saying that the government is prepared to take whatever action is necessary. Included in that is the need for tougher gun laws.
Australia is now mourning the victims of one of its worst mass shootings in nearly 3 decades. Flags have been lowered to half-mast and questions are being asked about security and gun laws. But amid the grief and shock, the image of one unarmed bystander charging forward has become a powerful symbol. In a moment of fear and violence, Ahmed al-Ahmed chose courage, and Australia will remember him for it. Staying in Australia, the world is now reacting after the deadly terror attack at Sydney's Bondi beach. As Australia mourns, global leaders are condemning the violence and expressing solidarity with the victims as well as the Jewish community. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the shocking and distressing attack was beyond comprehension. He noted that the assailants targeted a peaceful religious gathering and said the incident had shaken the nation.
This was an attack deliberately targeted at the Jewish community on the first day of Hanukkah, which of course should be a joyous celebration, and the Jewish community are hurting today. Today all Australians wrap our arms around them and say we stand with you. We will do whatever is necessary to stamp out anti-Semitism.
In neighboring New Zealand, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon reiterated the close bond between the two countries. He said Australia and New Zealand were more than just friends and that he was shocked by the distressing scenes at the beach. From the United States, President Donald Trump described the shooting at Sydney as a terrible attack.
Likewise in Australia, as you know, that was a terrible attack, 11 dead, 29 badly wounded. And that was an anti-Semitic attack, obviously. And I just want to pay my respects to everybody.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also strongly condemned the ghastly terrorist attack at Bondi Beach, extending sincere condolences to the families of those who lost loved ones. Pakistan also expressed condolences to the families of the Australian victims. And from the Middle East, Israeli President Isaac Herzog said that the attack was a cruel assault on Jews. He added that members of the Jewish community in Sydney had been targeted by vile terrorists. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Iran jointly condemned the attacks as well, reiterating their opposition to all forms of violence, terrorism, and extremism. Turkey's foreign ministry offered condolences as well to the families of those killed, wishing the injured a swift recovery. Meanwhile, leaders across Europe strongly condemned the attack, voiced support for Australia and Jewish communities, and rejected anti-Semitism and all forms of violence. Among those who reacted to the incident were French President Emmanuel Macron, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country stands with Australia, while UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he was horrified by the attack and expressed solidarity with Jewish communities. As tributes continue to pour in, the Bondi Beach attack has sparked global outrage and mourning. Hanukkah is being marked across the world amid heightened caution, with leaders urging vigilance as Jewish communities observe the festival in the shadow of the deadly attack. World leaders remain united in condemning terrorism and anti-Semitism as Australia remembers the victims of one of its darkest days. And now to Europe, where diplomatic efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine war have intensified, even as fighting continues on the ground and global fears grow over the conflict's wider consequences. And the latest, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has signaled a major shift in Kyiv's long-standing position by saying that Ukraine prepared to drop its ambition of joining NATO in exchange for strong, legally binding security guarantees from the West. The statement came as Zelensky met U.S. envoys and European allies in Berlin, where talks aimed at ending the nearly 4-year war resumed on Monday.
Ukrainian conditions, from the very beginning, or maybe not conditions, but more correctly, Ukraine's desire was to join NATO. And these were real security guarantees. Some partners from the United States of America and Europe did not support this direction.
For years, NATO's membership has been central to Ukraine's security strategy, seen by Kyiv as the strongest shield against future Russian attacks. However, Zelensky has described the new proposal as a compromise, acknowledging that Ukraine is seeking Article 5-like guarantees from the United States, along with firm security commitments from European nations and other allies such as Canada and Japan.
And that is why today bilateral security guarantees between Ukraine and the United States of America, namely Article 5-like guarantees from the United States of America for us and security guarantees from European colleagues for us, as well as from other countries, Canada, Japan, etc. These security guarantees for us are an opportunity to prevent yet another Russian aggression. And this is a compromise on our part.
Zelensky further stressed that any guarantees must be legally binding, pointing to Ukraine's bitter experience in 1994 when it gave up its nuclear weapons in return for assurances that later failed to prevent Russia's invasion. So while the proposal aligns with one of Moscow's stated demands, Kyiv has firmly rejected calls to surrender territory, saying any peace must be dignified and prevent future aggression.
I believe that for today the fair possible option should be we stand where we stand. And this is true, because this is what a ceasefire is: the parties stand, and then diplomatically try to resolve all common issues. I know that Russia does not have a positive attitude towards this, but I would like the Americans to support us in this matter.
The ongoing talks in Berlin actually lasted more than 5 hours on Sunday and focused on a reported 20-point peace plan that could eventually lead to a ceasefire. Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy, said a lot of progress had been made and negotiations were set to continue on Monday. Germany's defense minister welcomed Washington's engagement but cautioned that security guarantees without strong U.S. involvement would carry little weight. Meanwhile, pressure from Washington has also been growing. President Trump continues to urge both sides to end the war and warn that the conflict could spiral into a third world war.
With that being said, I'd like to see the killing stop. 25,000 people died last month, soldiers, mostly soldiers, but some people also where bombs were dropped. But for the most part, 25,000 soldiers died last month. I would love to see it stop. And we're working very hard. It doesn't really affect the United States unless it got out of control. Things like this end up in third world wars. And I told that the other day.
Now, despite the diplomatic push, the situation on the ground remains grim. Russian attacks have continued across Ukraine, targeting cities as well as critical infrastructure. Ukraine officials say strikes on the power grid have left thousands without electricity, heat, and water as winter continues to rage on. Fighting is also intensified in the Black Sea, where Russian attacks have damaged ports and foreign-owned vessels, including ships carrying food supplies.
Reiterate the need for an arrangement whereby, in order to prevent escalation in the Black Sea, attacks targeting navigational safety as well as the parties' energy and port infrastructure are suspended.
As European leaders prepare for crucial decisions on funding Ukraine and the possible use of frozen Russian assets, intelligence warnings are also beginning to sharpen. Britain's MI6 chief has described Russia as an aggressive and expansionist threat, pledging sustained pressure in support of Kyiv. And with talks resuming in Berlin and fighting showing no signs of slowing, the coming days may determine whether these negotiations move the war closer to peace or simply mark another pause in a conflict that refuses to end. Politics and personal lives have once again collided online. Elon Musk and California Governor Gavin Newsom are locked in a war of words. This is after Newsom's office said the tech billionaire's estranged transgender daughter hates him. The comment was made after a Musk-backed political group shared a video of Newsom defending his record on transgender rights. What followed was a sharp and highly personal exchange on social media, turning a debate over pro-trans policies into a very public family and political feud. Here's the story with more.
What began as a routine political flex on social media quickly spiraled into a deeply personal and highly combustible public feud between tech billionaire Elon Musk and California Governor Gavin Newsom, with Musk's estranged transgender daughter thrust squarely into the crossfire. The latest clash erupted on X after Musk's America Political Action Committee shared a clip of Newsom proudly touting his pro-trans legislative record, claiming no governor had done more for transgender rights. Newsom's press office, clearly unbothered by the backlash from conservative corners, responded with a sharp and strikingly personal jab. Correct. We're sorry your daughter hates you, Elon. That comment hit a nerve. Musk, never one to let a slight go unanswered, fired back with a blistering response that doubled down on his long-standing views on gender identity and his refusal to acknowledge his transgender daughter, Vivian Jenna Wilson, as such. Referring to her by her former name, Musk wrote that he was being attacked over his son, Xavier, whom he described as having a tragic mental illness caused by the evil woke mind virus. I love Xavier very much and hope he recovers, Musk added, before insisting that his other daughters, Azure, Aixa, and Arcadia, do indeed love him very much. Wilson, who legally changed her name and gender in California in 2022, has made her estrangement from Musk crystal clear. The aspiring model also dropped the Musk surname and formally petitioned to sever ties with her biological father, stating she no longer wished to be related to him in any way, shape, or form. In an interview earlier, she accused Musk of being largely absent during her childhood and described him as cruel, particularly when she expressed feminine traits. Despite this, Musk has repeatedly framed her transition as something done to him. He has claimed she was killed by the woke mind virus and has said she was essentially tricked into consenting to puberty blockers when she was 16. Musk reiterated this during a 2024 interview with psychologist Jordan Peterson, where he suggested she was pressured into signing documents amid the confusion of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the online spat intensified, Musk pinned a post to his X profile declaring, "If you have a womb, you are a woman. Otherwise, you are not." The statement further fueled criticism from LGBTQ+ advocates and underscored just how entrenched his position has become. For Newsom, the exchange was political theater with a sharp edge. His office's jab reframed Musk's criticism of pro-trans policies as hypocrisy rooted in personal failure. For Musk, it was a line-crossing provocation, one where he accused the governor of using to weaponize a private family matter for political gain. This is far from the first time the two have locked horns. In 2024, Newsom signed a law barring schools from outing transgender students to their parents, a move Musk labeled the final straw before relocating the headquarters of SpaceX and X from California to Texas.
Ozempic has already transformed human waistlines and taken over pop culture, and now it may be heading for the litter box as well. Scientists are testing an Ozempic-style weight loss drug for cats as vets look for new ways to tackle the growing problem of feline obesity. The aim is to help overweight felines lose weight safely and reduce the risk of serious health problems at a time when more than half of pet cats worldwide are estimated to be overweight. Here's the final story on cats' waistline.
Ozempic has already reshaped human waistlines, rattled diet culture, and dominated social media feeds. Now the weight loss revolution appears to be eyeing a new and far more judgmental audience: cats. Yes, Ozempic for cats is officially being tested. A San Francisco-based biotech company is testing the drug specifically for cats. The firm revealed that the first feline participant has dosed in its clinical study, charmingly titled Meow1, short for Management of Overweight Cats. Unlike humans, cats won't need weekly injections. Instead, the drug is delivered via a tiny implant, slightly larger than a microchip, placed just under the skin. The implant slowly releases medication over several months. This is an approach that avoids the near-impossible task of repeatedly medicating an animal that already suspects betrayal at every vet visit. Like its human counterparts, the cat Ozempic works mimicking hormones that regulate appetite and blood sugar. The company says that the drug is designed to replicate the benefits of fasting. that is, reduced fat mass, improved insulin sensitivity, and more efficient energy use. But without forcing drastic changes to feeding routines or damaging the human-animal bond that often revolves around food. The implant system has already been tested for safety in healthy cats, and the current trial will track overweight cats for over 12 weeks, monitoring weight loss and overall health markers. For now, the study is small, and the drug is still a long way from veterinary clinics. Still, the broader trend is clear. In the US, pet obesity is becoming harder to ignore. In 2024, 33% of cat owners classified their pets as overweight or obese. This was up from 28% the year before. The number of owners who believed their cats were at an ideal weight has declined. Researchers estimate that more than half of pet cats worldwide are overweight. While the internet may celebrate chunky felines, veterinarians see a much darker reality. Obesity dramatically raises a cat's risk of diabetes, arthritis, heart and respiratory problems, and liver disease. It also shortens lifespan, reduces mobility, and makes everyday activities, jumping, grooming, even using the litter tray, painful or difficult. Overweight cats also face higher risks during surgery and recover more slowly from illness. The parallels between cat obesity and human obesity are striking. Calorie-dense diets, sedentary lifestyles, and a lot of denial. The difference is that cats don't control their food choices, their owners do. For now, Ozempic-style treatments for cats remain experimental. But if they work, the future of feline health may look very different. One where weight loss implants sit alongside vaccinations, and where love is measured not in extra treats, but in extra healthy years. The era of the flabby feline may not be over yet, but science is clearly preparing to put it on a diet.
From all of us here at Firstpost America, thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.